Good morning. The meeting of the Louisiana Tax Commission is hereby called to order. The meeting is being held at the office of the Louisiana Tax Commission at 1051 North 3rd Street, Suite 225, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The date is Wednesday, March 12th, 2025, and the time is 9 a.m. Please call the roll.
Chairman Roussel,
Here.
Commissioner Leone,
Here.
Commissioner Romit,
Here.
Commissioner Guidry,
Here.
Commissioner Frazier. Board present and a quorum.
Thank you. There being no old business, we'll move on to the approval of minutes.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes from the meeting of February 26, 2025.
We have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Is there any objection to the motion? Hearing none, motion is adopted. Next will be consideration of change order.
Shandrika Banks on behalf of the Louisiana Tax Commission. Today we have a total of 1,148 change orders. Staff has reviewed those change orders and requests to approve 1,106, place 35 in pending status, and deny 7. Staff requests approval of these change orders.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the 1,106 change orders and place 35 of those in pending status, and we will deny 7 for reasons given by staff.
And we have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, motion is adopted.
Shandrika Banks on behalf of the Louisiana Tax Commission. Today we have a total of 74 prior pending change orders. Staff has reviewed those change orders and requests to approve 66 and keep 8 remaining in pending status. Staff requests approval of the prior pending change orders.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the prior pending change orders, approving 66, but keeping 8 remaining in pending status.
We have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, motion is adopted. Move on to the administrator's report.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Michael Mathern, Administrator for the Louisiana Tax Commission. First thing I'd like to say is happy anniversary. I'm not sure if everyone realizes that it's 1 year ago that you've taken the oath to become a Louisiana Tax Commissioner. And in that time, you have done everything incumbent upon you as per the Constitution and as per statute. You have promulgated rules and regulations this summer that all assessors use to value property. You've conducted appeal hearings of both personal and real property every Wednesday, some days longer than what we would like. You have staff on your behalf have conducted ratio studies to ensure the values that assessors put on their roll are fair and accurate. Staff has valued $1 billion worth of public service property that was placed on that roll on your behalf. You've approved tax rolls for every parish, 7 for Orleans, actually calling a special meeting to ensure the people's business was done timely. And the last thing we do as an agency is send to the governor and the Senate President and the Speaker of the House is this annual report, which you signed today. This is the culmination of 1 year's work. Congratulations. I think all the staff can express a thank you. You have been very kind to all staff. I hope I'm not pontificating when I say I hope you have a feeling of public service, as the staff does when we do the people's work every day. I hope you feel the same way because it is a calling. I know you're all involved in your communities. You're all involved in service where you live, but this is high-level service, and I want to say thank you. You have signed the annual report. We will get that across the street where it goes on the 4th floor and to the Senate President, and to the House Speaker. And congratulations and happy anniversary. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have about the annual report or any of the duties.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions from the commission? I do want to say this, want to compliment the entire staff of the Tax Commission. Our job is, excuse me, our job is real easy. Because we have such a great staff. So the staff is excellent. Can't complain whatsoever. They'll always get us the information we need to make the decisions we need to make. So kudos to the staff. The success of that report is a lot more to do with the staff than us. So, and I just want to make sure they know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll all pass that along.
We'll move on to appeals. Mr. Hoffman.
Mr. Chairman, if you'll be testifying in any of the appeal hearings on this morning's docket, meaning you'll be coming to the table and offering any sort of witness testimony, I'm going to have you stand up at your chair. I'm going to administer an oath to you. I'll indicate to you individually to affirm the oath, and I'll have you state your name as well. Appraisers, I'll do y'all separately. So, if each of you will raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
First Alamos, I do. Paul Pino, I do. Patrick Glenn, I do. William Powell, I do.
Thank you. Y'all may all have a seat. Appraisers, same exercise as normal. If you will unmute your camera, unmute your microphone rather, and turn your camera on, I'll administer an oath to you, and then I'll indicate to you individually to affirm the oath. Please raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? George.
I do, George Wallace.
Sandy.
I do. Sandy Kennedy.
Mike.
Mike Cater, I do.
Marquet.
Mark A. Palmer, I do.
Cody.
Cody Lowry, I do.
Paul.
Paul Bennett, I do.
Mark.
Mark Gillespie, I do.
Luke.
Luke Brewer, I do.
Very good. Is that everyone? Okay. Very good, Chairman. Good to move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Holtman. You can call the first appeal.
Okay, the first appeal we'll take up today is the appeal of Ferret One LLC versus Assessor L.G. Williams in the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 23-221-72106.
Good morning. We'd ask you identify yourself and speak into the mic, and you can go ahead and get started.
William Powell, POWE, the managing member of Ferret One LLC, the owner LLC of the property at 1012 Toulouse. Do I just freeform or? Okay, well, I'm at 800,000. The assessor is at somewhere between, I guess, around $1.1 million now. They began at $1.2 million. The property has been appraised by the state for 857. Very consistent with my opinion. My opinion includes a deduction for the roof repairs that are imminent, but not yet done, but they are dollarized. It's $22,000. I have a bid for it. It also includes the depreciated value of the insides of the apartment. It's not a brand new building. It's a rental property, has been for 20 years. It's not condos. We haven't just renovated it. There's no reason to think it's worth $400 a square foot. Economically, based on cap rates, income analysis, it's losing money over $1 million if you were to pay that. I've got the analyses to prove that. I also have the opinions of two real estate brokers that do a tremendous amount of business in the city. Their opinions are between 750 and 900. They provide all sorts of in-depth analysis for that. And my own personal opinion. And knowing the ins and outs of renting in the French Quarter and what it's like to have an apartment complex in the French Quarter, the evaluation that, let's just say, your assessor, my real estate counsel, and my own personal experience agree that it is worth about 100, maybe 850 at most. So that's my position. And I certainly can answer any questions if you have any, but generally speaking, the property is not Class A. It needs repairs. It's rented to the market, bartenders and whatnot. We're not high-end. These are not short-term rentals. And it is it's a sixplex. That's all it is. So, but if you have any questions,
Okay,
happy to
thank
answer.
you. We'll hear from the New Orleans Assessor's Office.
Good morning, Commissioners. This property is a multifamily property. It was originally valued at $1,199,700. It was lowered at the Board of Review to $1,079,800 based on condition issues. We performed a fee simple appraisal of the property. The fee simple appraisal of the property yielded a value of $1,187,000, which is slightly higher. That is a sales comparison approach of like properties less than a couple of blocks away. So they're very similar properties in size, condition, and location, as well as an income approach to value, which yielded a value above $1.1 million. So we were asking the commission to affirm the Board of Review's value of $1,079,000. Let me pull this up. $1,079,800. We do have some room to negotiate, some wiggle room based on some photos that were provided. We could offer a value of $950,000, which is slightly less than the Board of Review's value.
Okay, we'll hear from the, excuse me, we'll hear from the LTC appraiser, George. Sandy, apologize.
Yes. I appraised the property at $857,400. Hold on just a minute. I'm having a little technical difficulty here. My report does not want to open. Let's see. One of my monitors has quit. And of course, the monitor that had that one on there is not there. And I do apologize for the
All good, Sandy, take your time.
shoot. Let's see. I had it up and then it went away. Okay, here we go.
Would you just need the reconciliation analysis?
Yes,
Summary?
that's
Okay, I'll send you a
what I'm trying to get open on this monitor.
I'm gonna send you a quick text, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Well, if it pleases the commission, while we're waiting on Ms. Kennedy, I can give you the breakdown of what our offer would be to Mr. Powell. So it'd be $157,100 for the land, $792,900 for the building, for a total fair market value of $950,000.
While we're waiting, any questions from the commission?
Mr. Chair, I have a question for the taxpayer. You said you have some photos, but in looking at what we have from taxpayer exhibits, it's only the Form 3103. So was anything submitted to the assessor's office, photo-wise and condition-wise, roof?
It was submitted to, yes, of course, at the early phase. I mean, I would have, you don't have the picture? No? Because I definitely have them. I have them on my phone. I'm happy to show them to you if you would like to see them. But certainly the appraiser was at the building and can offer witness to the condition of the inside to assure you that I'm not exaggerating in any way.
Good.
And by the way, she's the only expert that has actually been to the building. None of the city's assessors, the fee simple appraisal, the economic analysis, all theory. They have not set foot in the property for what it's worth. So, and it's actually worth a lot in this opinion, I would say.
Thank you.
Okay, I do have my page up, and I do apologize. I valued the property at $857,400 with the land value of $157,100 and the improvement of $700,300.
Thank you, Sandy, and no need to apologize. We all been there where our computer stopped working the minute we need it, so don't worry about that whatsoever. Questions from the commission? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, I have a motion to accept the assessor's valuation of $950,000, which is $157,100 on land, improvements $792,900, a total of $950,000.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, motion is adopted.
Next, we'll take up the appeal of 8040 Camp LLC versus Assessor LG Williams and the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 23221-71053. That's briefing sheet A. And this taxpayer, he has briefing sheet A and M, so A and M is gonna go together.
Good morning. You can
Good
go ahead and
morning.
get started.
Thank you for having us. Which property are we doing first? Okay. This is a property we've owned since 2014. It's a condominium. Although it doesn't look like a condominium. It's 3,900 square feet. And it's officially 2 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms. We bought it for $500,000 because of the fact that it's so large and is not a typical for the warehouse district. People, and it's all that, everything I'm saying is kind of in the notes that the appraiser did for the state. It's an unusual size for the warehouse district. There's not really a market for 4,000 square foot condos in the warehouse district. Most people want 1,000, 1,500 square feet. And we've come across this situation since, I guess, when we bought it in 14 for $500,000. The city raised it quite a bit, and then we went to the Board of Review, and they understood our argument that you can't appraise it at the same price per square foot as you would if it was 1,000 square foot condominium. We also have a huge condo fee. It's $2,400 based on the size of the condo. And the other issues at the time, January 1st of 23, we had quite a bit of deferred maintenance, and we submitted the pictures to the city and to the Board of Review. You have the pictures showing that we had quite a bit of work to do inside and outside of the property. We're in a block of downtown that's not great. We have the Ozanam Inn across the street, which is now vacant and deserted. We have a couple of parking lots, and then we have some buildings that are just boarded up. It's just that it's not a very good block of downtown, and we have that going for us. But I think the big issue is the state's appraiser realized that, and they came in with a value of 900,000. We feel like 800,000 is a fair number, and the Board of Review, the last time we did this, came out with 765,000, which was 4 years ago. So I don't think there's any way you could come up with what the city did. I don't even understand how they did it, but to say that it went from 765,000 in 2020 to $1.4 million in 2024, it just doesn't make any sense. And I believe the 765 number from 2020 was a fair, reasonable number, and that was a number that the city and the Board of Review agreed to. I think that's the main issues.
Okay, thank you. We'll hear from the New Orleans Assessor's Office.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. So this property was originally valued at $1,410,000, which was affirmed by the Board of Review. We performed a fee simple appraisal on that property. That fee simple appraisal came in higher at $1,862,000. Little background about this. This property was correct. This was purchased in 2013 for $525,000 as a bank repossession sale. It was an REO. I had been on the market for 339 days. The original appraisal from the 13 sale was actually $750,000, so it sold over $200,000 less than what it actually appraised for in 2013. So the idea that it goes from 700,000 in 2020 to 2024 is a little misleading because it had been valued at over 700,000 since 2013. The appraisal that was performed by the state came in at 900,000. The only issues we had with the appraisal is that it was an exterior inspection only. There's no photos in the report for the condition. There is stated in the appraisal that Mr. Quinn provided, he spoke with Mr. Quinn by telephone to confirm the condition, so he didn't actually inspect it himself, but calls it average condition with no documentation to support that. There is a quality and condition adjustment. They're both identical with nothing in the report stating that why he made an additional reduction for the quality as well as the condition of the property. The main thing though is that the lease of this property in MLS number 745833 says that this is a ground floor space in a landmark townhouse, grand entry foyer, double parlors with 14-foot ceilings, original plaster crown moldings, elaborate medallions, intricately carved door casings, parking for two included. This property is actually listed on verbo.com as Les Carleons. I'm butchering the name. They actually have their own website, artdistrictgym.com, listing the property as Les Carleons. It goes for $1,170 a night. We have photos taken from the taxpayer's website showing the interior condition of the property being very good condition, and that starts on page 9 of our appraisal that was submitted. I mean, you can see from those photos, this property is in very good condition at worst.
Thank you. We'll hear from the appraiser, George.
Yes, sir. George Wallace, Louisiana Tax Commission. I appraised the property using the sales comparison approach and had a value of 900,000. That would be 351,000 for the 200 for the land, and 548,800 for the improvements. I made an exterior inspection of the property. I had previous MLS sheets that provided photographs of the inside, and after reviewing the assessor's report, the photos are pretty much the same as what appears as the condition and quality. I didn't really do an extensive review of their report, but just a few items. Some of the comparables they used had gyms, 2-car garages, one was fully furnished. Comp 2 had extensive balconies, courtyards, garage parking. Their Comp 3 had 24-hour security, a fitness center, a guest lounge, rooftop deck and pool, patio, outdoor kitchens. And Comp 4 overlooks Lafayette Square, balconies, concierge, 24-hour security. And Comp 5, they had some other similar amenities. I just felt like that their comps are somewhat superior in quality and condition.
Thank you, George. Questions from the commission?
Mr. Chair, I have a question for LTC, please. So you have 3 comps, one being identical, your third comp being identical to one that the assessor has used. And but you are throwing your weight between sales 1 and 2 and not taking into account sale comp 3, which that value that you have.
No, sir, I weighted most of my value on comparable sale 1 and 2.
Correct. Why is that as opposed to 3?
I just felt like the two comparables were closer in range. The other one was a little bit further outside that would set up just a higher end. I felt like the other two correlated were more in line with the final value that I had at the 900,000.
And I'm sorry, when you say closer in range, is that in distance or?
No, their final value adjusted, comp 1 is 844,000, comp 2 is 969,400. I put most weight on those two sales because their range is narrower. So I went with the 900,000 between comp 1 and comp 2.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions from the commission?
May I say something? Am I allowed to say anything? Okay. The third comp, which is 425 Notre Dame, that's a very nice building. It's really apples and oranges. I think the appraiser was correct in not valuing number 3 very well. That's a brand new building, and it was very expensive to build, and it's new construction and it's state of the art. It's no comparison to our building. The other thing, I felt like what Mr. Alvarez said was a little bit unfair, to say that we're going back to the 2013 or 14 numbers. In 2020, the number was 765,000. That was the number that was agreed on by the Board of Review and the city appraiser who was there at the time. They both, in 19 for the 2020 appraisal, they both agreed that the 765 was the right number. And the reason they came up with that number was because of the overall issue, besides the surroundings, was that we had this large condominium that really was out of demand for that neighborhood. There wasn't a demand for this 4,000 square foot condo. People were looking for 1,000 or 1,500. And so consequently, they used a lower per square foot number, which I think was fair. And the fact that we bought it cheap, it's true, we bought it cheap and it was REO, but it had been on the market for quite a while and they were trying to market it. And it was very hard to sell then, and it'll be hard to sell when we want to sell it because there's just not a demand for that condo. Final thing is, we haven't had a license to do short-term rental in 2 years because a dispute with the city. We've been working with them for 2 years trying to resolve it. But as of today, we still don't have a license, so we're getting no value for the short-term rental issue. The final thing is, it's also, Mr. Alvarez, oh, I'm sorry. I hope you heard what I said already. The final thing is, Mr. Alvarez, I met with him, I guess 1.5 years ago now, for this property for that year. And he asked me to bring him pictures to show the conditions. And I brought him the pictures, and I had a newspaper like he asked me to do. And I held the newspaper, and I had pictures of the exterior, and I showed where there was plaster missing and work needed to be done in the driveway. I showed him the inside pictures where we had mold and we had ceilings coming down. And I had a newspaper from that day showing it was all current. And I did everything he asked me to do. And then they didn't even respond after I brought him everything. He made no adjustment to the property, even though he looked at the photos and said, yeah, I can see that now that you've given me the photos. But they made no adjustment, even though I showed them the condition, and all those photos were in the work that we submitted to you. Some of that work has been done since then, but as of January 1st of 23, that work hadn't been done, and those photos are in there. And that's the newspaper I'm holding that he told me to hold. And so I think it's unfair to say that's excellent condition when you look at right there is the kind of conditions we had. This is after COVID, when we didn't have any money to repair anything for a couple of years.
Okay.
So that's the truth, is the building is not in great shape, and it was in worse shape back then.
If I may respond, from looking at the pictures, it doesn't appear to be the same building. It appears to be a different building based on the brick building on the back. What Mr. Wallace said about our appraisal, the 1,862,000 being high using the 425 Notre Dame. I agree with them that the 1,862 is high. We're not asking for that value. We were asking for the 1,410,000. We feel that that's a good value. We would be willing to negotiate to 1.2 million as a slight reduction, because if you take Mr. Wallace's appraisal and you would make the adjustments, keeping everything the same, but taking out his quality adjustment, which he has no denotation in the appraisal, why he made an extra adjustment, puts comp number one at 1,032,200, comp number two at 1,199,400, comp three at 1,281,000. Average those all together, weighted those, they would be right around 1.2 million. So we could do 1,200,000 total with a building of 848,800, land at 351,200. But I will state that all pictures from our appraisal and conditions are coming from the taxpayer's own website that is currently listed for lease now. And so I'm assuming that what they're putting out there on the internet as this property is for lease, here's the condition, is accurate. Otherwise, why would they lease it and say this is the condition of the property? That doesn't seem like that would be accurate.
I think I explained that.
Stop,
I'm
stop,
sorry.
stop.
Sorry.
We're not gonna go to the back and forth of he said,
Okay,
he said.
sorry.
Question from,
Thank you, Mr.
Commissioner
Chairman.
Gager.
Just a point of clarification, Mr. Wallace. Are we correct with the pictures that you're presenting to us today? Are these the actual pictures of the property?
Yes, sir. The subject photograph is the front of the property. And the comparables, photographs were taken from MLS.
I'm hearing a difference. I'm hearing a difference, Mr. Russell. Are you saying that these are the pictures that you have in your office that you're looking at to make an assessment on this
The
property?
pictures Mr. Quinn provided, we do have those pictures. They don't appear to be the same building. If you take a look at the picture, it's a big brick wall in the back. I think that that's a different building, considering the fact that I'm taking a look at the interior based on the website that the taxpayer has to lease out the property. Mr. Quinn is correct. We did not go into the property and take an interior photo of the property. Neither did Mr. Wallace. He's using Mr. Quinn's telephone call to say that that's the condition. I'm using the taxpayer's website to say that that's condition. So Mr. Quinn is correct. No one has gone inside his property. We're assuming that the actively leased photos are the accurate condition. So that's our fault for not going inside, making the assumption that if you're actively leasing the property and you're presenting it at, we're offering it for $1,100 a night and this is the condition, we're assuming that that is correct.
okay.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions from the commission? Hear none, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, I have a motion to accept the city's negotiated price of 1,200,000, which is land 351,200, and building 848,800, total 1,200,000.
We have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, motion is adopted.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, next we'll take up the appeal of Decatur Hotel Corporation versus Assessor L.G. Williams on the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 23-221-72064.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I have to say this. I really resent Mr. Alvarez saying that wasn't
Stop,
pictures.
stop. We're not gonna talk about what we just ruled on.
Okay,
You said some things, he said some things. We're not gonna do that at this commission. Stick to
Okay.
what your appeal's about, this appeal.
okay. This is a 34-room property that's being used as a hotel. The last official number from the 2019, 2020 year was 2,200,000. The city's raised it from 2,200,000 to 2,860,000. That's about a 35 to 40% increase in the 4 years, during which time we went through COVID. Um, just a couple of items about this hotel. There's no amenities. It's not a full-service fancy hotel. It's basically rooms. And the building was built in around 1830. It wasn't built as a hotel. Consequently, we come up with a lot of odd-shaped rooms. We have rooms with no windows. We have small bathrooms. We just had to work with what was there, the footprint that was there. Another problem we face is we're not in the French Quarter, even though we're on Decatur Street. The French Quarter officially starts on Abbeville Street. And because of that, because of our address, we're not allowed to advertise in Expedia or Booking.com, the places where people look. We're not under French Quarter. So we don't get the advantage of that. Now, the appraisal that was done by the state came in similar to what the city has. As we said, we don't agree with that. It was worth 35% more than it was 4 years earlier. I think anybody who's been following the news knows that by January 1st of 23, the rush and the crazy period in real estate was over. Interest rates went from 3% to 7%, 8%, and values of commercial properties dropped dramatically. And in effect, there were no buyers at that point. There's a glut of hotels for sale right now in New Orleans. Joe Yeager's passing away is just complicated because his 19 or 20 properties are now flooding the market. And with the issues we're facing with insurance going through the roof, literally, and other issues, it's a very trying time. You may have read recently the Young Hotel went back to the lenders. The Four Seasons has gone back to the lender. It's a very rough time to be in the hotel business right now. The final thing I'd like to say is Mr. Gillespie, the state appraiser, took 1 year of our numbers, which just happened to be one unique, great year of revenge travel after COVID, and he came up with a value of around $2.8 million. I submitted to you the same formula he used, exact same formula, but I took 5-year averages. I went from 19 through 24 through 23, because at the time we didn't have 24, but 24 actually went down, and I came up with 195,000 of net profit, which produced a value of about $1.9 million using his formula. I think to base it on the 1 year of 22 is unrealistic. By the time January 1st of 23 came around, there were no buyers willing to pay a value of 10 times revenue. They didn't exist. They may have existed a year before or 6 months before when interest rates were 3%, but they certainly didn't exist by January 1st of 23. And there's no way in today's market you could get $2.8 million for that 34-room hotel. It's not even in the ballpark. The $2 million number we're asking for, I think, is much more realistic. The $2.2 million is what this body came up with in 2020. And at the time, we thought that was a little high, but that's what it was. And so we live with it. But to raise it 35% from an already high number, it just doesn't seem right, doesn't seem fair. And I think the $2 million to $2.2 million is a reasonable number. Thank you.
Okay, we'll hear from the New Orleans Assessor's Office.
Good morning, James McKedo with the Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. We done income approach using some of the information that taxpayer provided and using a 9% cap rate loaded for a total overall cap rate of 11.27. That yielded a much higher value than what we even had on it. Our original value was $2,860,000. taking a look some other information, given benefit of the doubt, we would be willing to offer or settle for 2,700,000, which would be land at 328,000, improvements at 2,372,000.
Okay, we'll hear from the LTC appraiser, Mark.
Mark Gillespie with the Tax Commission. I appraised the property utilizing the income and expenses provided by the taxpayer of actually it's a January 1st of 2023 to December 31st of 2023, and determined the overall value to be 2,834,000. The land value, let's see, it's 328,000, and the improvement value 2,506,000.
Thank you, Mark. Questions from the commission? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to accept the assessor's settlement offer of 2.7 million with the breakdown as prescribed by the assessor. I'll ask them to repeat that for the record, please.
Land at 328,000, improvements at 2,372,000, for a total of 2,700,000.
Motion, is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection to the motion? Hearing none, motion is adopted.
Thank you.
Next, we'll take up the appeal of Podgers Towers, docket number 23221711070.
Thank you.
Yeah, should we, good morning, commission members. My name's Carl Kehoe with Ryan LLC. We've had some discussions with the assessor's office, and we're in agreement and have reached a settlement agreement.
Yeah, on a
however it's
number of
termed,
properties.
consent agreement. Yeah, on a number of them. So I don't know. We'll wait for your direction on if you just want us to start reading them into the record.
Okay,
Okay.
okay, no problem.
Well, Russ, if you would like to read them into the record, I'll just follow along. I think we've kind of
Okay,
gotten through our land and building.
yes. For the item number B, 23-22171-070, we've come to an agreement for a total fair market value of 11,400,000. I gotta do the math real quick.
While you're doing that, Mr. Hoffman, can we do it, should we do each one in a motion, or do we do them all once? Do them individually to accept the value. Cool.
Okay, so it would be land at 4,750,200, building at 6,649,800 for a total fair market value of 11,400,000.
And that's agreeable to the taxpayer?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the settlement offer between the taxpayer and the assessor at the stated value?
$6,649,800.
Okay, we have a motion to accept the settlement. Any discussion? Any objection? Motion is adopted.
Yes, that's correct. Yes, thank you.
Next, we have the appeal of IDB South Market District, A1, docket number 23-221711072.
Same thing, commissioners, we have an agreement for a total fair market value of 3,285,000. That is the land at 415.6 and the building at 2,869,400.
Yes, sir, that's correct. We agree.
The settlement reached between the city and the taxpayer?
Mr. Chair, I move to accept the agreed upon amount of $3,285,000 with land at $415,600. The improvements at $2,869,400.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion is adopted.
Next, we have the appeal of Industrial Development Board of,
Industrial Development Board of New Orleans. I
oh,
think it's
Board of
probably
New Orleans, docket number 23221711073.
With this one, we have an agreement for 27,500,000. That is land at 3,348,500, building at 24,151,500 for a total fair market value of 27,500.
Yes, sir,
Agreeable to
that's
the
correct.
Do I hear a motion from the commission?
Mr. Chair, motion to accept the agreed on 27,500,000, which is land at $3,348,500. Improvements 2,415,000, 2,415,000, 15. What was that? Improvements, Russell?
I just closed it out.
24th. Yeah.
24,151,500.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, which makes a total of 27,500,000.
Yes, sir.
We have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion is adopted.
Next, we have the appeal of Exchange Centra, docket number 23221711080.
With this one, we have an agreement for land at 1,566,500, building 8,283,200 for a total fair market value of 9,489,700.
Yes, sir.
9,849,700, huh?
Yes, sir.
9,489,000.
489, yeah.
$9,489,700. That should be the sum of those two. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Is that right?
Okay, acceptable.
Double
to the
check our
taxpayer.
math. Let's
Yeah,
see.
it's all good. You have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection?
Mr.
Hearing
Chair, I
none.
just checked, I object to those allocations because that is what I thought was a transposition on the mail that came last night. That adds up to 9,849,700, not 9,489. So the 4 and the 8 are transposed somehow.
Okay. All right, let me grab my.
9,489,700 is the total.
So then the 8.283 would be reduced by 400,000.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
that
it's
would be,
that's my math error. Let me clarify it. Sorry, I just did it on my phone. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's 1,566,500 for the land, 7,923,200 for the building, for a total fair market value of 9,489,700.
Correct.
To the taxpayer.
Yes, that's correct.
Motion for those values. Hendrik, you have those values? Okay. So we have any discussion from the commission? Motion is,
Okay, it's to my knowledge, item F and G are withdrawn. That's the appeal of Exchange Centra and the appeal of CW NOLA.
That's correct.
That's
Those are
correct.
Part of the other settlements that we're doing. So those
Okay.
are changing those.
So
should be
those two are
withdrawn.
withdrawn.
Yes.
Okay, and those are docket numbers 23221711081 is withdrawn. Docket number 23221711090 withdrawn. Correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So we're moving on to the appeal of CW NOLA Properties LLC, docket number 23221711091.
And this is a big ticket item, so I'm gonna just double check my math here real quick. The total fair market value we have a consent agreement for is 74,656,500. And that breakdown,
Well, that should be building only. That's the,
yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
right.
Biggest one, easiest one, there you go.
That
Building
number-
only.
Yeah, that number is acceptable.
That's
to the tax-
correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, do I hear a motion from the commission?
Mr. Chair, I have a motion to accept the agreed upon value of $74,656,500.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion is adopted. Great work on that appraisal, Luke. You hit it right on the penny, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Happy to help.
Mr. Chair, may I ask, Ms. Banks, would you repeat that docket reference? Please.
That is docket number 23221711091, CW NOLA Properties LLC. It's brief as sheet H.
Thank you.
Any questions, Commissioner Romick? Go on.
No, I just had my pages attached. I didn't see 91 behind 90.
Gotcha. Okay. We'll move on to the next appeal.
Okay. Next, we have the appeal of Hertz 909 Padres LLC, docket number 23221711092.
With this one, we have an agreement for a total fair market value of $36,500,000. The breakdown would be $3,167,700 for the land. Building would be $33,332,300 for a total fair market value of $36,500.
That's correct.
Tax-
Yes, sir.
A motion from the commission?
Mr. Chair, I have a motion to accept the agreed upon value of $36,500,000, which is $3,167,700 of land, $3,733,000. Well, give me that. What's that? 33 million. Yeah, 332,300. Okay, total of 36,500,000.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there any discussion on that motion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion is adopted.
Okay. Next, we have Next, we have the appeal of New Orleans Marone Street Hotel, docket number 23221711093.
We have a consent agreement on this one, Commissioners. Total fair market value of $27,300,000, with land being $813,000, building being $26,487,000.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
To accept the total of 27,300,000 with 813,000 for the land, 26,487,000 for the improvements.
Okay,
I'm sorry, it was 813,000 for land, 26,487,000 for the improvements, for a total of 27,300,000.
okay, we have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion is adopted.
Okay, it's to my knowledge that item K has been settled. That's the appeal of Padres LLC, docket number 23221711095. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay. Next, we'll move on to the appeal of Jong LLC, the Jong LLC, docket number 23221710101. That's briefing sheet L.
We have a consent agreement on this one for a total fair market value of $18,630,000, land being $6,891,200, building $11,783,800.
I think it, double check my math. I have 11,738,800.
738, yes.
Okay.
Did I say 83? Dyslexia, sorry, 38. I can't.
Okay, we have,
Yes,
and
sir.
taxpayer agrees that value. Do we hear a motion?
Yes, sir. 18,630,000. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I just think we need an extra 800 at the back end of the improvements, 11,738,800.
So land
That's
at
correct.
689, 1,200, improvements 11,738,800 for a total value of the 18,630.
Yes.
Yes.
We
If it-
have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion is adopted.
If it please the commission, items Q and R, we have consent agreements. Could we do those first? Okay.
Okay, so we'll move on to item Q, appeal of Straw. Is that how you say it, Russ? Are you gonna straw?
Oh, yeah, I guess Shadraw.
Riverside Market LLC, docket number 2322176-134.
You have an agreement on this one?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, I have a motion to accept the agreed upon the total of 21,950,000, which is 8,575,900 on land. Building is $13,374,100. Total of 21,950,000.
Yeah, and just to reflect, that is the number of the LTC appraisal. So great work, Mike, on it.
Correct.
We have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion is adopted.
Okay. Next, we'll move on to the appeal of 701 South Carrollton Avenue, docket number 2322177-065.
With this one, we also have a consent agreement for a total fair market value of 18,397,000. That is land at 2,777,000. Building at 15,620,000 for a total fair market value of 18,397,000. 16. Wait, yeah.
Wait. 18 million.
No,
7,
Okay,
2777.
397.
Wait.
Minus
18 million.
777.
I got. Oh. 27, okay, yeah, okay, never mind.
What numbers do you have there?
Yeah, it is 16,120. I had the wrong land in there.
Oh, what is the land then? I have,
2,277,000.
oh, I had 2,777.
Yeah.
Okay, 2 million.
2,277,000.
Gotcha.
Building 16,120 for a total fair market value of 18,397,000.
Correct. That's correct.
And for the record, that's agreeing to the LTC tax appraiser. Once again, Mark, great job on a high level number for sure. So do I hear a motion?
All right.
Okay, we have a motion. Any discussion on the motion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion is adopted.
Okay, we're moving back to item N on the agenda. It's the appeal of Mercy Partners LLC, docket number 2322172-085.
Hey, good morning. I'm Sarah Nerbass. I'm representing the property owner.
Which one is it?
So this one, we are contesting the land value. It is the former Lindy Boggs Hospital, which was damaged back in Katrina in 2005. It's about 5 acres of land, and atop it sits a hospital that's ridden by asbestos, vandalized. It's just it's got a basement that floods. It's a tear down foreshore. In 2024, the reassessment brought the land value from $12.50 a square foot to $20 a square foot, an increase. And what we asked at the previous levels is just to go back to the 2023 value of $12.50 a square foot. considering that the building encumbers the land and to tear it down would be millions of dollars. At the time, we didn't have an estimate, but I believe the tax commission appraisal included one, $3+ million. Now we've gotten more. I won't talk about it because we didn't have it then, but so that's our argument, that it really encumbers the land and shouldn't have been raised in the reassessment. And so that's where we are. Also, the tax commission appraisal came in even lower than us at $5 a square foot. So that is we're at, so it's two different ones. They're adjacent land parcels. But okay. So, 3. Okay, the one that ends in 431. So our total requested value was 458,680 for the land and building. There's a minimal value on the improvement.
Thank you. City of New Orleans Assessor's Office.
Looking at the first property, 3425 Danville Street, we have original value for the land itself was $348,900. The building value was not contested. Our original, our independent appraisal derived a value for the land itself of $441,400, which would be $25.30 a square foot. The original value is $20 per square foot. The contention we have with the LTC appraisal is they use much smaller comparable sales and in more residential neighborhoods. And one of the principles for appraisals would be to use suitable replacement properties. In this case, those properties wouldn't be considered by a typical buyer for a property that would be interested in the subject property, as it's a much larger piece of property per square footage wise. Based on that, we're asking that our original value for the land be upheld at $348,900. The building value wasn't contested at $262,400 for a total value of $611,300.
Okay, thank you. We'll hear from Cody, LTC appraisal.
Yes, sir. Cody Lauer with the Louisiana Tax Commission. I personally appraised the land value using a fair market approach. We came in at $349,600 for the total value, with $87,200 or $5 a square foot for the land, and these improvements listed at $262,400.
Questions from the commission?
Mr. Chair, I have a question for Mr. Lowry. Your total net adjustments across all of your comps are 90%. So help me understand from a market standpoint what you're comparing in your sales price to this property if it's land to land.
What we're comparing here is we tried to find is close to comparable sales for this property as we could, but there's just given the nature of it, we just weren't finding anything similar within the time frame that we had. I went back several years, went out several miles, just not finding something as similar as this property. So we had to make some serious adjustments to it. The big thing is that it has a defunct hospital on top of it, so that is detrimental to the value of the land at the current moment because it can't be used until you have that. If you get rid of the hospital, then you have land here, and then I can make a highest and best use statement. But with this structure being on there that cannot be used, it makes a detrimental. It's detrimental to the value of the property.
So is the 90% industry practice if I have a tear down house, am I valuing the land that's underneath that tear down house the same as your approach?
In There could be a case for it. In this case, though, simply your land it's a lot easier to get rid of a house than it would be a hospital. So in this case, I wouldn't say that they were the same.
When you say easier, wouldn't it be relative to the owner of that property and what they could afford?
It's definitely it's relative to the owner. If you have a property that costs several $1,000,000 to renovate, I mean, if your value is, they sent me a demolition estimate that was costing several $1,000,000. If you're stating that the property is, let's just go with the taxes assessor's value of roughly 3.5 million or so. If your demolition cost is the same, then your property value is not very high.
So that was the theory in your 90%.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
If I may also, Commissioners, the assessor's policy is to value the properties as is, not as a fair market value, but as is at the time of the assessment.
And Mr. Chair, I have a question for the assessor's office. So in your comparables, you're representing that these are commercial properties?
The first one is actually a residential multifamily property. The second two are mixed-use property, 626 South Conti, and MS. Yeah, the other two are commercial. The comparables 2 and 3.
And it seems as though you go through an exercise of having an indicated value per square foot and then working through an adjusted value. Can you describe that methodology in comparison to Mr. Lowry's taking it to 90% because you're at a max of 40%?
Yes, the adjustments are made on a per square foot basis, typically on the comparable sales to come up with an adjusted value per square foot.
And with those adjustments, that's how you came to your $25 per square?
Yes.
No further questions, Mr. Chair.
Other questions from the commission? I'm just going to say in the past, this commission's done our best to try to keep values as normal as we can and to work with it. We certainly understand this is a unique case. Hard to say that property is equal to other property because of the condition of what the building that's on it. We're consciously aware of it. So just y'all, for everyone's knowledge, we're certainly going to take that entire deliberation into consideration. Hearing that, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to accept the assessor's appraisal land at $348,900 and the uncontested improvement value of $262,400. Total of $611,300 for this property.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Let's do a roll call vote if you don't mind, Chandrika.
Commissioner Romick,
4.
Commissioner Leone,
4.
Commissioner Guidry,
4.
Chairman Russell.
Nay.
3 no, 1 yes, it passes.
Okay, motion is adopted. Next appeal.
Next, we have the appeal of Mercy Partners, docket number 23221720086.
Yes, so this is the remaining part of the same situation that we were talking about. I just want to emphasize again, the hospital is 350,000 square feet of worthless property that is very costly to tear down. It's got a basement in New Orleans, which floods. So beyond just the demolition, there's the filling in, the site grading. I think the difference between the assessor and us is just the fact that this is an encumbrance to the property. Anybody who purchases it has to put the money in to tear it down to redevelop. And that's what we're trying to recognize, that at least it shouldn't go up from 23 to 2024. Nothing changed. The building is continuing to deteriorate, being vandalized, and it's really in poor shape. And that's where we are with that.
Thank you. City of New Orleans approved. Assessor.
Again, this is a very similar property. The comparable or independent appraisal values indicated a value of $20.83 a square foot. Our original value was valued at $20 a square foot. And all the adjacent property parcels that are similar in size to this one are also $20 per square foot. And that's where we're asking to be upheld. Again, this was an appeal on the land only, not on the improvement value.
May I say something? Just to point out, the sales that the assessor is using are out of cycle. They're pre-COVID sales, just to point that out. That's not within the usable for this cycle.
Okay, thank you. We'll hear from the LTC appraiser.
Yes, sir. Cody Lowry again with the Tax Commission. We came to a fair market value of $1,324,000, which breaks down to $945,000 for the land. It's $5 a square foot again, and $379,000 for the improvements.
Thank you, Cody. Questions from the commission, Mr. Guidry?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I have a question for the taxpayer. You had mentioned that the estimated cost of demolition was at what now?
So it's up to 5+ million, and this is being valued at 4.9. So more than the value
How
of.
many appraisals did you get on that demolition? Was
We
that just one
have, I've
appraisal?
got 3 with me, but they weren't available at the time of the appeal. Would you like me to? Okay, sorry. So we have 6, and then the one that's in the tax commission's appraisal, so 7. They're really trying to redevelop this. It's just getting the funding for it. They were supposed to get some kind of HUD loan, and then that fell through because of the flooding in the basement in New Orleans. So, yeah, and the other part of our thing is just the size of it. It needs a significant size adjustment because the last one we were talking about was the part that was 26,000 square feet, and this is the one that's 190,000 square feet for the land. So you definitely need an adjustment for the encumbrance and for the size.
Questions from the commission?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair, a question for the taxpayers. So you say an adjustment. Elaborate further on what that would be.
For the demolition per square foot.
To 0 theoretically.
Right, but we're not asking for that. We're just asking it to be returned to 2023's value.
This land, certainly you've got a portion on Bienville, and now this is on what
Norman
is
C.
referred to
Francis.
as, correct, now on Norman C. Francis, stretching back to the Greenway. Thank you.
Any? Hear none, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, given that it's adjacent property, there's no separation. I understand the taxpayer's presentation that the comparable sales are out of the scope of utilization. However, my appreciation for the land continuity, I would value it at same $20 a square, which I think is what the assessor is praying for, which would present a total value of $4,159,100, with the land value at $3,780,100, and improvements that I believe are uncontested at $379,000.
We have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay. Another roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Romick,
4.
Commissioner Leone,
4.
Commissioner Guidry,
Nay.
Chairman Roussel.
I'm gonna vote nay, so we're stuck.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll
apologize. We never had this happen before, so let's figure out what we gotta do.
Mr. Chair, I know that we've done this for other properties. I'll rescind my motion and make a motion to take this under advisement.
This is.
So we have a motion, we have a substitute motion that we will take this under advisement. Any discussion on that motion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion is adopted. By that luck of the draw, that there's only 4 of us here today.
Thank you. Oh, Lord. Thank you.
Being no further business to come before the commission, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chair, I call for a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any objection? Hearing none, motion is adopted. We are adjourned at 10:18 a.m.